friends, Amanda here. Welcome back to Handmade Not Hallmark. Today I have this really cute flower thank you card featuring the beautiful ConeFlower die from HoneyBee. This was so fun to play with and it is so easy to do. It took me less than half an hour. I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be using the Lovely Layers ConeFlower die from HoneyBee. This is such a popular set. I was so thankful I got a hold of it. I'm also going to be using my favorite stamp set, Inside Kindness Sentiments. The first thing that I did was I went through and did a little bit of pre-die cutting. I just have some pale pink cardstock from my stash. I think this might be like ballet slipper or something like that from Lawn Fawn, but any color cardstock that you want your flowers to be, and we're going to ink blend on them to give them lots of depth and dimension. I'm going to be using Picked Raspberry Distress Oxide inks, and I'm going to speed through this because I left all of the ink blending in. I wish we could all ink blend this fast, and I'm just going through and I'm just building up the color to kind of add dimension to it. And this is really helpful if you don't have different colors of cardstock. If you don't have multiple colors, you can do this to add that layering and that dimension and that depth. And I thought this was a really cool idea. I have a lot more ideas using this die. I was so happy to get a chance to play with this die, excuse me, and it was so easy. I finished it. I think I checked my timestamp. I filmed this all in one go, and it took me, I think, 33 minutes to do this card in its entirety with all the ink blending, everything like that. Less than an hour to do. So really fun. You could swap out the different colors to do multiple cards. You could do like a thank you kind of card set and give it to somebody with different colors of flowers. You know, keep the backgrounds nice and simple, anything like that. And it was a lot of fun to do. So again, I'm just using some Picked Raspberry on the main flowers here. And then I'm going to be using MOWED Lawn Distress Oxide ink for my leaves. Now I thought about doing different colored leaves, like I have different shades of green, but I really like the way that these ones looked better with the MOWED Lawn. I think the shading turned out a lot better on these, and I love the detail on these leaves with the etching from the die. They look so realistic, and then once you add the dimension on with the ink blending, it's perfect. So I'm going to get my little waffle flower stencil mat cleaned off here. I absolutely love this thing. I was so thankful that I picked it up, and I had a lot of suggestions to purchase it and use it, and they were right. I absolutely love it. And then I'm going to be using Vintage Photo for the centers here. I did go in with a little bit of black soot just to try to deepen it in a little bit more because I don't have any other browns in the Oxide colors. I'm probably going to pick another one up just so I have a variety, but the black soot worked out okay. I would definitely just maybe go with a darker brown color, maybe weathered wood or I think it's espresso. I can't remember the names, but any browns will do fine. And I just have a sheet of Simon Says 110-pound cardstock here, and I'm just making a top folding A2 sized card, and I'm gonna put down my pattern paper. So these are just some pattern papers from my stash. You can use any that you like. I really like the idea of the wood grain and then a little bit of gingham on the top. You could, like I said, you could use any pattern paper that you want. I just went through my stash and found ones that I thought looked really nice together that didn't take away from the bright flower. I wanted something a little bit more muted. So I went with the wood grain and this gingham. I think the gingham one is from a set from, I think it's, oh gosh, I can't find it. I think it's from Sunny Studios. No, Doodlebug. It is the Buffalo Check wood grain rainbow prints. I'll make sure it's linked in the description below. Next, I'm going to go through and attach all of my flower pieces here, and they're so easy to line up. I struggled a little bit just because I hadn't done it before, but it does, once you do one, it goes probably pretty quick, and I'm just adhering them by where the stamens would be or the center of the flower would be so that the petals can kind of lay a little bit looser, and I'm going to lift them up a little bit later just to give them a bit more dimension. I'm just fiddling with my glue here off camera. I had a little bit of a clog, so I had to get it out, but just again gluing just at the top there just to give the rest of the petals some room to move a little bit later. and I really love this ConeFlower. I was going through and I was doing it, and I thought about doing them in yellow tones because I think they would look like Black Eyed Susans. I know that there's ConeFlower, but I think if I did it in like yellow tones with a nice deep center, I think they would look like Black Eyed Susans. Those are my favorite flowers, and they only come out at the end of summer. So any chance I get to either, you know, see a picture of a Black Eyed Susan or do anything with crafting with them, I'm right on it. So I think that'll be my next attempt with these, is to create some Black Eyed Susan kind of cards. I think that would be really cool. Again, just layering up those centers, and that flower is so pretty. I love all of the depth and dimension with the ink blending that we did. It looks so cool. The lighter petals on the end, and again, you could use any colors. I think blues, purples, you know, even reds. Even I think whites would look neat if you went in with like a light gray color and did all the shading on a white. It would make it almost look like a white flower. I think that would be really neat as well. As you can see, once you do one and you line them up, they go together so fantastic. It's so easy to use. I couldn't believe how easy it was, and I couldn't believe how quickly I put this card together too. It was, when I was done, I looked at my timestamp and I was like, wow, this really did go by fast. And I had planned it out ahead of time, kind of in my head what I wanted to do. So that kind of helped out a bit. So I wasn't kind of fumbling around with what I was going for. I like to plan things out in advance just to kind of give myself an idea of what I would like to shoot for. And then if I venture away, you know, here and there, it's fine. I kind of have a basic idea of what I want to do. Next, I'm going to do my greeting. I just took some black cardstock from my stash, and I'm going to do some heat embossing on it. I took the thank you stamp from the Inside Kindness stamp set. I guess you guys know this has been my favorite one so far, and I really hope they bring out some more. And I'm just going to do some heat embossing. I'm going to stamp it down with some Simon Says clear embossing ink, and I'm going to use some Brutus Monroe Alabaster White embossing powder. Get that covered with the embossing powder, and I had a few stray areas, so I just took a dry paintbrush and brushed away the bits of embossing powder that I didn't want. It's probably not that big of a deal, just because I'm going to be using the coordinating dies to cut this little greeting out. I think that's why I like this stamp set so much, is that it has the coordinating dies and it cuts out the sentiments. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I like it. So I'm going to get the coordinating die out and cut that out, and we'll get ready to assemble our card. Now that I have all of my elements ready to go, we can get our flowers adhered. I'm going to be using some 3M foam tape. You don't have to use any foam tape. You could just adhere these nice and flat, but I wanted to add just a tiny bit more dimension. Again, this is completely optional. But I really like the idea of a lot of dimension, and I think this card would still mail pretty nicely. I probably would still put it maybe in a bubble mailer with an envelope just to protect it a little bit more, and you know, you might have to pay a little bit of extra postage, but I think it's worth it for a card like this. But again, you could also hand deliver it. Either way, I think it would be a nice card to receive. Go through and add that foam tape, and I'm just going to tuck this bottom one in around that top flower. Really love the way that this looks. Those flowers look so bright. I've seen a couple of crafters where they've created kind of like their own stems to go with these. Just kind of cut strips of just regular cardstock and colored it and made it look like stems. I think that would be really cute for this. I just like them kind of floating there. I didn't really care about realism or anything like that. I really like the way that they look just sitting there on the paper. Just going through and kind of getting my leaves tucked in there. I did have to trim them down a little bit, but I wasn't too bothered by that. I thought about just kind of lifting it up, but I didn't want to bend them too much and kind of ruin them. So I just trimmed down the leaf a little bit and got it tucked in there underneath that foam tape. I probably should have glued the leaves down first, but I guess hindsight's 20/20. Next, I'm going to take that little thank you greeting, and I'm going to add a little bit of foam tape to one side and a little bit of liquid adhesive, just because of the dimension. I want to make sure that it's not going to get kind of squished and messed up. Just using some Darice 3M foam strips here, and I'll get that adhered as well. I can't wait to play with this die again. Like I said, it's so easy to use. I've had it for a while, and I kept meaning to use it, kept saying, oh, I want to use that ConeFlower dye. I want to use that ConeFlower dye. And then other things would come up and I would completely forget about it. And then I was going through my stash the other day and I saw it and I was like, I'm getting this out and I'm using it. And I was so thankful that I did because I love how this card turned out. I thought it was so, so pretty. I'm just going to go through with my reverse tweezers and kind of lift up the petals just a little bit, just to give them a little bit more dimension. Now, they'll probably get squished in the mail, but I still like the idea of lifting up those petals just to give it a little bit more dimension. Next, I went in with a glitter pen and just went over the centers. Now, this is ink blended with the Distress Oxide ink, so you'll have a little bit of ink transfer. You want to clean off your little brush. And I thought about adding more, but I didn't want to risk kind of smudging the ink blending I did on the flowers. So I just went in with some Bubblegum Nouveau crystal drops and added a few dots here and there. And that will finish up this card for today. I really hope you enjoyed it. This was a really quick card to create. I had a lot of fun creating it, and I can't wait to use this die again. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button, as well as the subscribe. It is free to do, and it helps out my channel, and it helps us build a wonderful community here on YouTube. I can't wait to share with you guys the next video. I had so much fun with this. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye!
On screen, I've got a few videos that I think you'll enjoy. Consider hitting the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more videos at my YouTube channel.